dream. You're in your bedroom, caught up in a video game. When a system notification pings inside your head, congratulations. You have successfully bound the 24-hour tycoon system. From this moment forward, every dollar you spend will result in a 10x cashback reward. In 24 hours, the system will automatically unbind. A countdown timer flickers into existence in your mind. Right then, your brain starts racing at 100 miles an hour. 10 times the money back. Your entire life savings is barely over $2,000. You immediately top up your phone plan with the full $2,000. A split second later, your banking app sends a push notification. A deposit of $20,000 has been made to your savings account. Balance, $20,024. It actually works. You're absolutely ecstatic. Gaming the system is going to be incredibly easy. Without a second thought, you Zelle $20,000 to your best friend Ethan Lin. Instant cashback, $200,000. Ethan sends back a text with a single question mark. But you don't have time to deal with him right now. You immediately send Ethan another $200,000. Instant cashback, $2 million. The next moment, Ethan calls you directly. What the hell? Man, what is going on? 220,000? What did you do? Where did you get this kind of money? Don't worry about it, you say. Didn't I borrow 10 grand from you a while back? I'm just paying you back now. Look, I'm slammed right now. I'll talk to you later. Who the hell pays back 10 grand with 220? Even loan sharks aren't that crazy. What are you up to? Your fingers fly across the screen as you pay off every debt you have. You really want to make a massive purchase for a huge cashback. But for an average guy, there just aren't many ways to drop that much cash on short notice. You have to build up your base capital first. Before you have the funds for the next level of spending, I'll explain everything later. By the way, aren't you like 100 grand in the hole? Go pay it off and stop nagging me. Fine, I'll go take care of the debt first. Call me when you're free. With that, he hangs up. In just 3 short minutes, you've cleared every single online loan and credit card. Balance you own. That $300,000 you just spent resulted in a $3 million cashback. Now, your bank balance sits at $4.7 million. Ethan is the only real friend you have. Everyone else is just a fair-weather acquaintance. They aren't worth your help right now. There isn't anything else online worth buying for a quick spend. You decide it's time to hit some high-end luxury spots. You rush downstairs as fast as you ever have in your life and hail a taxi. Driver, take me to the Ferrari dealership on the west side. When you have money, the first things to buy are a house and a car. Big-ticket items like that lead to much faster cashback. While in the taxi, you quickly download several different streaming platforms. You don't even look at the streamers. You just load 4 million into the first app. Instant cashback, 40 million. Without hesitation, you drop another 6 million in. Message received, 60 million cashback. Now, 94.7 million is sitting in your bank account. You don't dare put too much into a single platform. For fear of drawing unwanted attention, you repeat the process, putting 10 million into several other platforms. Cashback successful. Driver, I'm in a huge hurry. Get me there as fast as possible. And I'll tip you 5,000. How's that sound? Buckle up, kid. Today I'm going to show you what a real professional driver looks like. The car surges forward instantly. You immediately scan to pay him the $5,000. Cashback, $50,000. In less than half an hour, you've already cycled through nearly 300 million. For an ordinary person, 300 million is enough to retire forever, right? But you're not satisfied. You don't even know what your ultimate goal is anymore. About 20 minutes later, you arrive at the entrance of the Ferrari dealership. Hello, sir. Welcome to the Ferrari Sales Center. Is there a specific model you've had your eye on? Not really, but you can give me a quick rundown of what's in stock. I'm ready to buy right now. The saleswoman takes a look at your outfit. Your clothes, from head to toe, couldn't have cost more than $100. Sir, you might want to look at this one over here. This is the Ferrari 625. The current price is $5.7 million. Don't worry about the details. I'll take this one. Run the card. Then find me a few more. I'm taking all of them. The saleswoman gulps. She looks at you and thinks to herself that life-changing luck has finally come her way today. Do you have the Ferrari 812, Ferrari F12, Ferrari 599, Ferrari 4088, Ferrari SF90, Ferrari 458, and the Ferrari FF in stock? Sir, we might not have all of them on the floor right now, Some would need to be brought in from other locations. The ones I just listed plus the 612 make 8 cars total. I don't need to see the custom options. Just give me the top-tier specs for all of them, mostly in red and black. Just give me the quote. How much for everything? And please, move fast. I'm in a rush. The saleswoman doesn't waste another word. She grabs a calculator immediately and starts tapping away furiously. The base prices are one thing, but with taxes, high-end options, and insurance, the costs add up. The final total for all the vehicles comes to $53.5 million. You have nearly $300 million in your account. You don't have time to swipe for each one individually. That'll do. Give me 4 more sets exactly like that. 5 sets in total. The saleswoman is completely stunned. It's not that she's never seen someone buy a Ferrari, but someone buying luxury supercars, like they're buying heads of cabbage, is absolutely terrifying. Do you have any LaFerraris, sir? The LaFerrari is a limited edition and is sold out worldwide. You feel a bit of regret. It looks like you won't be able to get that one. Run the card. Normally, a standard bank card like yours would have a strictly limited daily spending cap, but under the reality-bending power of the system, which could crush the laws of this world with a single finger, that rule was effortlessly swept aside. As the transaction clears with a successful beep, the saleswoman's gaze toward you turns practically sultry. At a luxury dealership like Ferrari, actual customers are few and far between. So, all the other saleswomen who had nothing to do began to crowd around you. They were all desperate for even a moment of intimacy with this mysterious young billionaire. Your plain, ordinary clothes had now become the ultimate symbol of stealth wealth in their eyes. You just swiped for over $200 million, resulting in an instant cashback of $2.67 billion. Adding that to what you had left, you now have nearly $2.7 billion in cold, hard cash. 40 cars in total. As you sign the papers one by one, the entire sales team remains clustered around you. Even the manager ran over to serve you tea and water, bowing and scraping with every move. He wouldn't have been this devoted even to his own father. Mr. Gray, I must remind you once again that for all of these vehicles, full delivery will take about 6 months. That's fine. Just send them to me one by one as they arrive. I can wait. Upon hearing this, the saleswoman let out a huge sigh of relief. She couldn't even fathom how much the commission would be. On a deal worth over $200 million, she felt that even if she became his mistress, just a small allowance from him would be enough for a lifetime of luxury and wealth. In the past, you certainly would have been interested in chatting up these beautiful women, but right now, you only have 24 hours. Over an hour has already passed. You simply don't have the time to consider anything else. At this stage, any beauty has to take a back seat. Help me answer that and put it on speaker. Of course. Hello? Am I speaking with Mr. Gray? This is he. Who's calling? Hello, Mr. Gray. I am Preston Young, the president of Commercial Bank. Your savings account with our bank just received an overseas wire transfer. It's a large transaction of $2.6 billion. Since your deposit with us is so significant, our bank would be honored to invite you to become one of our prestigious VIP clients, where we can offer you numerous conveniences and assistance. $2.6 billion, even though your phone was in normal mode. The caller's voice was clear enough for everyone present to hear. Everyone from the manager to the sales staff was stunned. Just how much money was that? Especially the woman who had been showing you the cars. She thought $200 million was terrifying enough, but hearing over $2.6 billion was a total shock. As for the VIP upgrade, you were more interested in the bank's influence. Hello, President Young. Setting the VIP status aside for a moment, I'd like to ask for a favor. Mr. Gray, please, just give me your instructions. There's no need to be so polite. I want to buy some real estate, either high-end penthouses or luxury mansions. I was wondering if you had any connections in that area. I need them right now, and more than one. If they're a good fit, I can pay immediately. Mr. Gray, please give me a few minutes. I'll reach out to my contacts right away. After you hung up the phone, the saleswomen nearby didn't even dare to breathe too loudly. If you only had a few $100 million, they might still dream of marrying into wealth. But now that you had billions, and that was likely only a fraction of your wealth, you were at a level far beyond their reach. Are there any cars available for me to drive off right now? Mr. Gray, since you selected custom options for every vehicle, the earliest we can have one ready is 3:00 p.m. today. Fine. At 3:00 p.m., regardless of which car it is, call me immediately as soon as it's ready. Also, help me fill up the tank. As for the plates, anything will do. Standard plates are fine. I have other things to take care of, so I'm heading out. Surrounded by the manager and the enthusiastic sales team, you walked out of the store. Just then, the store received a call from Preston Young. Hello, Mr. Gray. I just got in touch with a few people for you. There are quite a few currently willing to sell. What do you think? Our bank is located at... Just set up an appointment for me. It's almost noon now. If possible, I'd like to meet them at your branch at 3:30 p.m. Mr. Gray, it's an honor to serve a guest as distinguished as yourself. It would be our bank's privilege. I will schedule the appointments with them immediately. Then I'll leave it in your hands, President Young. Oh, by the way, do you happen to know any manufacturers or dealers for private yachts or private jets? Rest assured, Mr. Gray, our bank provides high-end concierge services for our VIPs. We can fulfill any requirement you have. In that case, please help me arrange those appointments as well. I'll meet with everyone this afternoon. The appointments were set for the afternoon, but in the meantime, you still had to visit other dealerships. You needed to keep burning through the cash. Fortunately, there were other luxury brand stores on this very street. Less than 500 meters away, you stepped into a Porsche dealership. Before you could even open your mouth, the manager immediately led a group of sales associates to greet you. Hello, Mr. Gray. I am the manager here, Summer Vaughn. Welcome to Porsche. What you didn't know was that, in the 2 minutes you were outside taking that call, the staff at the Ferrari dealership had already shared everything that happened in their group chats. Now, every luxury car dealer on the entire street knew that a mega whale had arrived, splurging like crazy. He had spent nearly $300 million to buy 7 different Ferrari models, 5 of each. It made no sense. No one could understand this guy's logic. What kind of wealthy person buys cars like that? I'd like to know if you have the Porsche 911, the Porsche 918, and the Porsche Carrera GT in stock. Oh, Mr. Gray, we don't have that many units in stock right now. We'll need to source them for you. Just go ahead and arrange all the custom options. Use the most suitable color combinations for everything, and just set the configurations to the highest specs possible. No need to ask me. Hello, Mr. Gray. Based on your selected options, the total out-the-door price is $50 million. That includes 2 different versions of the 918, as well as a 911 and a Carrera GT. Give me 5 sets of that exact same configuration. Without a word, you pulled out your bank card and swiped. In less than an hour total, surrounded by a flock of beautiful women, you left the Porsche dealership. 200 meters later, you arrived at the Lamborghini dealership. The exact same scene played out once again. Ultimately, you picked the Lamborghini Reventon, the Lamborghini Aventador, and the Lamborghini Murcielago. The total price for these 3 models was nearly $40 million. Again, you ordered 5 sets of each. That was another $200 million. Finally, your $4.9 billion turned into $4.7 billion. And then the cashback hit, another $2 billion. Your total balance became $6.72 billion. Same routine. Sign the contracts and leave. You didn't have time to worry about anything else. Finally, it was the Maserati dealership. The Maserati Quattroporte, the Maserati MC20, the Maserati Gran Cabrio, the Maserati Coupon, and the Maserati Gran Turismo only came to $15 million total. With a wave of your hand, you ordered 5 sets of those too, totaling $75 million and netting a $750 million cashback. Your total balance had now climbed to $74 billion. As 3:00 p.m. approached, you arrived at the entrance of a commercial bank. You pulled out your phone and made a call. In less than a minute, from inside the building, a middle-aged man in his 40s came walking out briskly. He was dressed in a formal suit and polished leather shoes. Seeing Caleb, he stepped forward warmly and said, "Hello, Mr. Gray. I'm Arthur Sterling, the president of the commercial bank. Welcome." Caleb replied very politely, "You're too kind, President Sterling. Why don't we head inside to talk?" Arthur looked at Caleb, who was holding a half-eaten burger in his hand. He paused for a moment and said, "Mr. Gray, how about we grab a meal first? I'm worried you might be hungry." Caleb waved it off and said, "No need. I'm in a bit of a rush. Let's just get to it." Arthur said with some concern, "Tell you what, I'll have my staff grab something from nearby for you right away." "How does that sound?" Caleb didn't refuse. "All right, something simple will do. Sorry for the trouble." "No trouble at all, not at all." While they spoke, the two of them walked inside. As soon as Arthur entered the lobby, he casually signaled to a nearby staff member. Then he said, Go look around nearby. Buy a quick meal and have it delivered to the conference room. Remember, it must be fast. There's a 200 bonus in it for you this month. Without a word, the employee took off running. There were quite a few people here this time, because Caleb had requested appointments with many people. Arthur's office couldn't accommodate everyone, so they simply used the conference room. Arthur personally poured tea for Caleb, and then said, "Mr. Gray, everyone you requested is here." This is, after a brief introduction, Caleb scanned the room. There were 7 real estate agents, 3 yacht manufacturers, and 5 people from the private jet sector, 15 people in total. Caleb said politely, "I apologize, everyone, for inviting you all here this way. It's mainly because I'm on a very tight schedule, so I decided to just do it all at once. However, I believe that in our following discussion, you will all be quite satisfied." They were all business veterans, so naturally, they weren't going to get upset over a small thing like this. Besides, Arthur had already told them before they arrived that this man was a mega tycoon. His liquid cash flow was terrifyingly large. In the current economic climate, many wealthy bosses might seem rich, but their assets were mostly tied up in real estate, funds, stocks, and so on. Billionaires with this much liquid cash were truly rare, so they had come with immense enthusiasm. First was the real estate. Caleb nodded to the group and said, "Could you please pass me the materials you've prepared?" The 7 agents immediately handed them over. They had come prepared with their data. There were more than 30 penthouses and luxury villas available. Caleb skimmed through them quickly. He mainly focused on the environment and the price. These were all famous high-end developments in the city, quite expensive, and definitely not something an ordinary person could afford. For example, the penthouses in the brochures. The cheapest one was $20,000 per square meter. The smallest unit was over 2,500 square feet. Caleb spent a full hour reviewing all the materials. When he looked up, a fast food meal had already been placed beside him. It was rice with a few side dishes. He set the documents down, not caring at all about his appearance, and spoke up. "If I buy your properties, are there any additional discounts or perks?" The agents looked at each other, each taking turns praising the benefits of their own properties. Basically, they were all offering to waive 3 years of HOA fees, utilities, and heating costs. Some included free parking spaces, and others offered 10 full house cleanings. Over 3 years, Caleb did a rough calculation. The cheapest penthouse was $46 million, while the most expensive villa was a staggering $800 million. There were 32 properties in total, penthouses and villas combined. 7 were villas, and 25 were penthouses. The total price came to $4.3 billion. With $7.4 billion in his account, he wasn't worried. On the contrary, he was thrilled. After all, this would net him an instant $43 billion in cashback. However, because the amount was so massive, the system would release the funds to Caleb in installments. Since they had come in such a hurry, they had only brought brochures for the houses and villas. They hadn't expected to close a deal in a single meeting. Usually, you'd talk first, and if there was interest, you'd go for a site visit. Who could have expected to meet someone like this? Someone who placed an order just by looking at pictures. They hadn't even brought the contracts with them. But it didn't matter. With one phone call, someone would have them delivered immediately. For a deal this massive, the office would surely rush the delivery. Caleb ate his meal casually. No one in the room felt it was out of place. That's just how the world works. If you're broke, everything you do is wrong. But if you're rich, even if you're eating street food in a 5-star hotel, people will find a way to praise you for it. They'd say you're unique, grounded, and brilliant. Next, Caleb turned to the 3 yacht representatives. "Do you have the materials ready?" he asked. The 3 of them immediately produced their documents and respectfully placed them in front of Caleb with both hands. After seeing the real estate deal, they were absolutely certain that Caleb was a mega tycoon. How could they dare to be even slightly disrespectful? Even if a man like this treated them like dirt, they would still have to take it with a smile. After Caleb gave the materials a quick look, he pointed to 3 yachts in the brochures and said, "I like these 3 very much. I'll take them all. Plus, I want to commission a custom build." When they heard Caleb speak, they were overjoyed at first, but then quickly responded, "Please don't worry, Mr. Gray. There is nothing we can't build for you." Caleb nodded in satisfaction and quickly began listing his requirements. The 3 reps frantically took notes on their phones. Half an hour later, Caleb said, "The requirements are quite demanding. You three can compete for it. Let's see who can handle the job. By then, the real estate contracts had arrived. Caleb immediately began signing them, while giving the yacht manufacturers some time to think. Not only that, but Caleb also turned to the aircraft representatives and said, "Did you all bring your materials as well?" These people represented several major aviation companies. To be fair, buying a house or a car isn't the same as buying a yacht or a plane. With houses and cars, you usually have ready-to-move in or ready-to-drive options. While some might require a pre-order, they're usually delivered within a few months. Yachts, however, take even longer. Typically, they take 6 months to a year for delivery. Even 2 or 3 years was possible. Ready-made ones were extremely rare. As for private jets, don't even mention it. Most luxury private jets nowadays come from foreign manufacturers. Many wealthy people buy relatively cheap ones, or they have commercial airliners remodeled. So, these people were all from the airlines. Caleb frowned as he looked through their brochures. To be honest, he wasn't very satisfied, but there was no way around it. Because the cost of a private jet is massive, there usually isn't any stock on hand. They're all made to order. Caleb immediately laid out his requirements and conditions, telling them to contact their manufacturers. There were many requirements for the private jet as well. As Caleb spoke, the group took notes. Then, they all quickly contacted their manufacturers. Beside them, Arthur Sterling watched, feeling like he was in a dream. Truth be told, as a bank president, Arthur considered himself well-traveled and knowledgeable. However, he felt like he was truly seeing the world for the first time today. People haggle and pick over everything even when buying vegetables at the market. Yet you're buying items this expensive, as if you're just picking up some random produce. Is that really okay? After the signing, the yacht dealers reached a decision. One of the companies was chosen to handle Caleb's custom order. The private yacht Caleb wanted to customize was based on the data he had quickly looked up on his phone while he was in the taxi. He had combined those details with the specs from the 3 dealers to create a specialized custom design. The total price tag was a staggering $25 billion. Even on a global scale, wasn't that considered extremely expensive? They immediately arranged for someone to deliver the contract. Then, based on existing contract templates, they made revisions and finally signed it. Caleb transferred the full $2.5 billion right then and there. Now, he just had to wait 9 months for delivery. Additionally, there were the 3 ready-made yachts he had liked earlier. That was another $400 million. Without a word, Caleb signed the contracts and swiped his card. Once the payments for the properties and yachts were finished, Caleb's total funds shot up towards $72.2 billion. He could withdraw it all if he wanted, and it was all in cold, hard cash. In the world of the ultra-rich, Caleb was now at the very top of the food chain. As for the custom yacht, it was a challenge for the manufacturer as well, because the yacht Caleb wanted to build, in terms of both size and specifications, was world-class. Fortunately, the manufacturer was quite capable. They were among the best in the country, which was why they could handle such a massive order. In this industry, it really is a case of nothing for 3 years, but one deal lasts you for 3, and with Caleb spending $2.5 billion this time, he received an instant $25 billion cashback. His liquid capital was now massive, having settled the real estate and yacht deals. Next up was the private jet. After some deliberation between the airlines, Eastern Air eventually took the order. Caleb's customization requirements were high-end and complex. All said and done, even with an expedited schedule, it would take 1.5 years to deliver. Normally, it would take 3 or 4 years. So, this timeline was already incredibly rushed, especially while still having to guarantee quality. But Caleb didn't care about that. The only thing he cared about was the massive expenditure. Following the standards of top-tier international luxury, he ordered a custom build. The final price was $3.5 billion. Caleb didn't know if this price would break a world record, but he did know that the airline representatives in front of him were completely numb. With all the contracts signed today, Caleb wasn't worried about anyone trying to cheat him. In the eyes of every representative, Caleb was a mega-billionaire. Behind him was an extremely powerful family that controlled immense wealth. Trying to pull something with a power like that, they weren't that stupid. Only by serving such a big player well could they earn even more. So, on the contrary, they would actively protect Caleb's interests, because that would bring them even more profit. It was a total alignment of interests. After all the signings and card swipes, Caleb's funds finally broke the $100 billion mark. totaling $103.7 billion. Once the representatives had their contracts and payments, they rushed back immediately to report the news. They needed to prioritize this VIP client right away. By the time everyone had left, it was already past 7,000 p.m. Caleb rubbed his temples. To be honest, spending money since 10:00 a.m. until now was actually exhausting. Just the sheer amount of thinking, negotiating, and signing had worn him out. Arthur Sterling looked at Caleb and said, "Mr. Gray, you look quite tired. How about this? Give me the opportunity to host you for dinner. You can take a break." Caleb wasn't feeling as rushed now. After all, he already had $100 billion. Plus, he had the luxury cars, the villas, the private yacht, and the private jet. He could just relax and live in absolute luxury for the rest of his life. He took a sip of water and said, "All right, let's go." Arthur Sterling kept himself very humble. Even though he was a bank president, it was only a local branch. Even if this city was second only to the capital, it was still just a local position, and he was just one of many. He knew very well that his chances of a promotion might just lie with this young master. With just this one client, he could exceed all his performance targets. As long as he took good care of Caleb, even if he didn't have any other salespeople, he'd never have to worry about quotas again. Caleb stood up and said, "President Sterling, where's the restroom? I want to wash my hands." He'd been sitting all afternoon. Caleb hadn't stood up once. He was also really bursting. Arthur Sterling immediately led Caleb to the restroom. Watching Caleb go inside, he quickly pulled out his phone and dialed a number. By the time Caleb came out, Arthur said with a smile, "Mr. Gray, shall we?" Caleb replied casually, "Let's go." It's worth mentioning that Ferrari had delivered a car to Caleb that afternoon. Caleb had accepted it after a quick look. Walking out the door now, he saw the Ferrari SF90 waiting for him. It looked incredibly sleek. The red body glowed like fire. From the interior to the exterior, Caleb was very satisfied. Arthur Sterling was driving an Audi. Though it couldn't compete with Caleb's Ferrari, it was still low-key and luxurious. Under Arthur's lead, the two arrived at a private kitchen. Caleb was a bit curious, though, since it was just the two of them, why Arthur had specifically reserved the largest private room. Caleb ordered the dishes himself. Arthur didn't even look at the menu before saying, "Just bring whatever this gentleman requested. Go ahead and serve it." Once they sat down, the real conversation began. Caleb sipped his tea and said, "President Sterling, I wanted to ask you something. Are there any other ways to spend a significant amount of money?" Spend money? Arthur was a bit taken aback. Hadn't he bought enough today already? After thinking for a moment, he said, "Well, things like luxury watches, collecting fine art, and high-end jewelry are all big-ticket items." Caleb shook his head. "Anything else?" Arthur frowned and said, "If it's just about moving money, then investing is the fastest way to burn through it." Exactly. Investing. Caleb's eyes lit up. He didn't know much about this before, so naturally he had to pick President Sterling's brain. Are there any companies right now that are desperate for investment? I'd like to take a look. If the opportunity is right, maybe I can help a few of them get off the ground. Well, investing? That's easy. And there are way too many companies looking for funding. He immediately replied, "Mr. Gray, there are plenty of options in that regard. With so many companies across the country, and every industry needing capital, I could pull up a huge list for you without even trying." Caleb nodded slightly. "In that case, President Sterling, could you look into film and entertainment, online media, healthcare and pharmaceuticals, and education or training services? Any of those will work. See if any companies in those sectors are looking for investors. Of course, they can't be bottom-tier companies. I don't want to back something with no future." He said this on purpose, of course. As long as he invested, he'd get the cash back. That was all that mattered. Arthur agreed readily. "Don't worry, Mr. Gray. I'll get in touch with you as soon as I get back after dinner." As a bank president, countless companies were constantly begging him for loans. He knew the landscape better than anyone. As for watches, jewelry, or art, those might cost tens of millions at most. But investing, that could easily involve billions or even tens of billions. Comparing the two, this was clearly the more efficient route. The two of them quickly reached an agreement. However, Arthur also made a request of his own. "If possible, I hope you'll consider keeping your deposits with our bank, Mr. Gray." For the sake of his performance metrics, he naturally had to secure this client. Caleb looked at Arthur and smiled. "President Sterling, you surely know the saying about not putting all your eggs in one basket. So, I can't keep my entire fortune here. However, I can promise you that your bank will definitely hold the largest share. A favor for a favor. Old Arthur was working hard for him, so he was happy to help with this small request. Arthur didn't need much. If he could just get 10 billion, his entire yearly quota would be finished. Seeing that their talk was mostly concluded, Arthur's phone suddenly rang. After he answered, whatever the person on the other end said, he simply replied, "Come in." The next moment, the door to the private room opened. Caleb instinctively looked over, only to see a row of young, beautiful women walking in. The last one gently closed the door behind them. Looking at the group of beauties, there were 10 of them in total. Every single one was gorgeous. Judging by looks alone, any one of them would be considered a campus belle at any university. Even in the entertainment industry, they'd be top tier. As for their physiques, they all had great curves, slim waists, and long legs. Some wore tight-fitting dresses that accentuated their curves, while others wore form-fitting pants that showed off their straight, slender legs. Regardless of the outfit, every one of them was stunning. They all looked to be in their early 20s. Caleb was a bit stunned. He turned to glance at Arthur. Arthur said with a chuckle, "Mr. Gray, these are the 10 most beautiful employees at our bank. They all admire you greatly and wanted to meet such a talented young man. Look at how smooth he was." Caleb understood exactly what he meant. He was basically saying, "These are my best. Take your pick." It's not out of the question to take them all. Caleb had never seen anything like this before. But after his experience buying cars earlier today, he was starting to build up a resistance to beautiful women. So, he was able to remain composed. Money is a person's backbone. With so much wealth in his hands, Caleb was the one in charge here. He took a quick look around. Truth be told, they were all high quality. It was a tough choice. Sensing Caleb's hesitation, Arthur gave a soft laugh. "Mr. Gray, why don't I have them give you their contact info? You can reach out to them later. After all, they're all single, and they have plenty of free time." Hearing the underlying meaning in those words, Caleb immediately understood. Single. Then, the 10 beauties stepped forward one by one and added Caleb's contact information. As for whether anything would happen later, that would depend on the circumstances. Among the 10, in terms of looks, style, and vibe, there were pure types, seductive types, cute ones, more mature older sister types, and even ice queen types, cold ones, gentle ones. Every variety was represented. This dinner party, accompanied by these 10 atmosphere girls, was a lively and pleasant affair. By the time the meal ended, it was past 9:30 p.m. Caleb checked the time and said, "President Sterling, I'll leave those connections in your hands." Arthur replied politely, "Think nothing of it, Mr. Gray. It's our bank's honor." Caleb was gradually getting used to the deference and respect from others. He followed up, "Oh, right. I'm also looking to buy a commercial building. I'm not sure if there are any that are currently up for sale." Arthur hesitated before saying, "Mr. Gray, buying an entire commercial skyscraper. That price tag is definitely not cheap. If you're serious about buying one, I'll have to reach out and ask around. Besides, I doubt many people are willing to sell." As the conversation turned to serious business, the 10 women didn't dare speak. They just listened quietly. When they came over today, all they knew was that the president wanted them to accompany a mega VIP for dinner. But how rich this client actually was, they didn't really know. Now, hearing Caleb open his mouth, just to say he wanted to buy a whole commercial building, they were all shaken. A commercial building wasn't some small-time purchase. A single building could easily cost billions or even tens of billions. They looked at Caleb, then at the half-eaten burger still on the table, and their worldviews were completely turned upside down. Extremely expensive. Caleb thought for a moment and said, "Office buildings or commercial buildings, either would work. If we can settle it tonight, that would be ideal." Although Arthur Sterling didn't understand why Caleb was in such a hurry, putting the client's needs first was his top priority. His eyes darted around as he thought, and suddenly something clicked. "Oh, right," he said. "Mr. Gray, would a newly completed building that hasn't been put into use yet work for you?" Caleb said nonchalantly, "That's fine. I can just arrange the renovations and remodeling myself." Arthur immediately pulled out his phone. "Well, since you put it that way, I actually know of one." Caleb's eyes lit up. "Which one?" he asked curiously. While looking for the number, Arthur explained, "A few years ago, a company took a loan from our bank To build a twin-tower complex, 2 buildings join together. The interior layout is quite sophisticated, designed for mixed use with commercial spaces, offices, a hotel, and residential units all integrated into the blueprint. Construction was just finished last month, and I hear they're currently working on the interior decor. I'm just not sure about the exact progress. Caleb shook his head. I don't want to lease it. I want to buy it outright. President Sterling, could you ask? If the price is right, I'll buy the whole thing right now. Arthur nodded and dialed the number. This was the power of the bank. As a national bank of the United States, the resources they could mobilize and control were absolutely massive. They had their hands in every single industry. The call went through quickly. Arthur hit the speakerphone and placed the mobile on the table. President Sterling, hello. Calling me at this hour? Is there something important on your mind? From the phone, a middle-aged man's deep, booming voice rang out. Arthur laughed. CEO Shaw, I'm actually calling on behalf of someone else today. I wanted to ask you about something. Shaw asked curiously, on behalf of someone? Who, and what's it about? Arthur said with a smile, how are those 2 buildings of yours doing? Shaw replied immediately, Arthur, are you asking about the money? Checking in on the loan, are we? Ha! Don't you worry. I'll have them ready for use very soon. Once the rent starts coming in, I'll pay you back. Don't be so impatient. Arthur shifted the tone. That's not what I meant. I'm calling to ask if you have any intention of selling. Selling? Shaw was clearly caught off guard by the question. He paused for a moment and said, I'm not really willing to sell, because with those 2 buildings, whether it's the surroundings or the overall design, everything is top-notch. I'm planning on making a lot of profit from them. Arthur spoke up loudly. Hey, I have a very high-powered client here. I was planning on making an introduction, but if you're not selling, then forget it. Shaw blurted out, Wait, high-powered. What level are we talking about? Arthur said mysteriously. I can't give you the specific details. I can only say they can buy both buildings from you in full cash. Hearing this, Shaw clearly started to hesitate. 2 buildings were very expensive, especially in Deep City, where every inch of land is worth its weight in gold. Relying on rent to recoup the costs would take a lot of time. Plus, the profits would have to go toward paying back the bank. Waiting to save enough for the next phase of his plans would indeed take quite a while. If he could liquidate the assets quickly, that would actually be quite a good deal. He thought about it and said, Tell you what, Arthur, I'll get the others together tomorrow to discuss it. At that moment, Caleb leaned in and whispered something into Arthur's ear. Arthur continued, CEO Shaw, the client just told me, if you can negotiate tonight, he wants it tomorrow. We can talk until 10:30 a.m. tomorrow morning. After 10 noon, he's going to look elsewhere. Shaw immediately got anxious. Come on, Arthur. What kind of joke is this? Who buys a building like that? Deciding in just one night? Stop kidding around. That's not a serious offer. Arthur said calmly, I can only tell you that this client spent nearly $10 billion in cash just today. Hearing this, Shaw went silent. $10 billion in cash. Regardless of anything else, anyone who can pull out $10 billion in cash is the real deal. They wouldn't bother making a joke like this. But why the rush? Deciding on a deal in a single night? Shaw's mind was full of questions. Buying a building wasn't that easy. It usually involved inspections, inquiries, comparisons, repeated vetting, and finally, negotiating a down payment. Does this person just not follow the rules? But there was nothing he could do. The client was too rich. After weighing his options, Shaw said, Fine, in an hour. I'll call you back. All right, Arthur said. Sounds good. After hanging up, Arthur and Caleb shared a knowing smile. They would wait here for the news. The 10 beauties nearby didn't even dare to breathe. Spent nearly $10 billion in a single day, and now wants to buy 2 more buildings? Just what kind of tycoon is this? Where did this super-rich heir come from? Deep City was a major economic hub for the country. There were beautiful women everywhere, and they were the top beauties of the bank branch. Usually, they were flooded with suitors. Average guys, nouveau riche types, wealthy heirs. But they could guarantee that all those people combined didn't even equal a tenth of Caleb. For a moment, their hearts were all pounding, their minds filled with the art of war and advanced green tea playbooks on how to land a man. They were all calculating how to get close to him. They finally understood Arthur's intentions. Today was just the start of the competition. The colleagues sitting right next to them were now their biggest rivals. Caleb checked the time. It was almost 10 p.m. He said to Arthur, "Tell you what, let these ladies head home first. The two of us should keep discussing the business side of things." Arthur immediately waved his hand. "Sounds good. Mr. Gray has spoken. Everyone, let's head out. Go home and get some rest. It's getting late, and I want you all to stay safe. I still have work matters to attend to with Mr. Gray." Although the women were all reluctant to leave, none of them dared to defy Arthur. Once everyone had left, Caleb rubbed his temples and said, "Oh, right. About those investments. President Sterling, ask around about those too. Send out a mass message. See if anyone is looking for investors." He currently had $100 billion in assets. He couldn't just let it sit there and do nothing. He had to get it out there to trigger more cashback. Even if there was no cashback, investing was still a solid choice. Who knows? He might even make a profit. Arthur didn't hesitate either. He drafted a very polite message on his phone. The gist was that the bank had just acquired a new, major high-value client with immense financial resources who was interested in investing in various industries. If anyone was seeking a partnership or was short on investment, they were welcome to get in touch. The moment the message was sent out, not even 10 seconds later, Arthur Sterling's phone started ringing. "President Sterling," the voice on the other end blurted out urgently. Arthur gave a knowing smile, put it on speakerphone, and said, "Well now, if it isn't CEO Wang, to what do I owe the pleasure?" CEO Wang took a breath to steady himself, and said, "I just saw your message, President Sterling. I was wondering." Arthur interjected firmly, "I can tell you with absolute certainty. It's all true. And in fact, we're together right now." CEO Wang's breathing hitched for a second. Then he said, "It's too late for a formal visit now. That would be far too rude. But I'd like to come by and pay my respects first thing tomorrow." Arthur saw Caleb's signal and replied, "Tomorrow morning at 8:00 a.m. in our bank's conference room. Bring all your documentation and contracts." "Thank you so much, President Sterling," Wang exclaimed, ecstatic. "Thank you truly." Arthur's message was like dropping a piece of bloody meat into a vast ocean. Countless sharks came swarming at the scent. In less than an hour, Arthur had fielded at least 20 calls, all from people seeking partnerships and funding. Many others couldn't even get through on the line, and resorted to texting Arthur directly. An hour later, CEO Shaw finally called back. "Arthur, my partners and I have discussed it. We're willing to sell the towers. However, regarding the units already under contract, there's nothing we can do about those. The buyer will have to handle that themselves." Caleb gave a thumbs-up gesture, signaling no problem, then held up 7 fingers. Arthur understood immediately. "No problem," he said. "Tomorrow morning at 7:00 a.m. sharp in my conference room. Bring all the paperwork and the contracts over." The two exchanged a few more pleasantries before hanging up. Looking at the flood of messages on his phone, Arthur gave a wry smile. "Mr. Gray, are you sure about all of these?" Caleb replied nonchalantly. "Tell them all. Anyone who's available tonight can come see me. Otherwise, they have until 9:00 a.m. tomorrow. Don't bother showing up after 9, because I have other things to take care of after 10:00 a.m. I won't have time for them then." Though he didn't know what Caleb had planned, Arthur knew it wasn't his place to ask. So, the bank president didn't breathe a word about it. After Arthur sent out the update to everyone, he checked the time. It was already 11:00 p.m. Looking a bit weary, he said, "Maybe we should head somewhere else." Caleb thought about it. The restaurant was closing soon anyway. Moving on was a good idea. He felt incredibly energized right now. He wanted to keep making money. Sleep was the last thing on his mind. Arthur thought for a moment and said, "Mr. Gray, come with me. I know a place." They called for a designated driver, and before long, Arthur had brought Leb to the entrance of an exclusive private club. "Mr. Gray," he explained as they walked in, "this club is owned by a local businessman. The baths, lounges, and massages are all top tier. There are plenty of quiet spots, perfect for discussing business later." Caleb had never been to a place like this, but he liked what he saw. At the very least, the interior design alone was impressive. After providing his membership info, Arthur led Caleb toward the bathing area first. They had VIP suites here, which were nothing like the public bathhouses outside. Those places were crowded with people. But here, everyone got their own private suite. The room was spacious, more like a luxury apartment. It had a bedroom, a private restroom, a small plunge pool, a mini sauna, a professional scrubbing bed, and a rainfall shower. Just as Caleb had undressed, a beautiful woman walked into the room. She was wearing a form-fitting blue blazer and a matching pencil skirt. "Hello, sir," she said with a respectful bow. "I'm here to assist you with your bath." Caleb was a bit taken aback. "Wait, what?" The woman gave him a gentle smile. "This is a standard service for our VIP guests. Every VIP receives this, so please don't worry. My services are strictly professional bathing. If you require other services, someone else will assist you." Caleb was still a little dazed, but he understood the implication. This was just how they did things at this club. He wasn't some chaste monk anyway. The woman was young and attractive, so he relaxed and leaned back into the plunge pool. The woman changed into a bikini, showing off her stunning figure, her full chest, her flat stomach, and her long, straight legs. She walked over to Caleb's side on bare feet and began to massage his head, helping him settle in. Perhaps her technique was just that good. Or maybe Caleb was just genuinely worn out. From running around all day, he was only keeping going on pure adrenaline. Before long, Caleb actually started to feel a wave of drowsiness. A few minutes later, the woman whispered, "Excuse me, sir, would you like to head into the sauna now?" Caleb opened his eyes, shook off the daze, and said, "Yes." The woman didn't follow him inside. Caleb spent about 10 minutes steaming in the sauna before coming back out. When she saw him emerge, she gestured to the scrubbing bed. "Hello again, sir. Please lie down so I can give you a scrub." Caleb gave a slight nod and lay down on the bed, looking at his powerful physique. The woman felt a flicker of surprise, but she didn't make any inappropriate moves. She picked up a fresh exfoliating mitt and began to scrub Caleb's body. Once she had finished the exfoliation, she applied body wash over him. After rinsing him off, she dried him off thoroughly with a soft towel. The woman said softly, "Sir, my part of the service is complete. Would you like a specialized therapist to come in now?" Caleb hesitated for a moment. He didn't know the reputation of this place, and even if she was a specialized therapist, he worried she might have seen quite a lot of clients. He decided to pass. Better safe than sorry. Caleb didn't actually realize that these high-end, exclusive establishments only cater to a very select group of people. Some of the staff were even pure. And since the clientele was exclusively wealthy, safety was a top priority. Every employee had regular medical checkups to ensure they were free of any illnesses. Compared to some of the wilder people in society, the staff here were likely much cleaner. Caleb forced his brain into overdrive, thinking about his investments with all his might, just to suppress his rising desires. Still, Caleb couldn't help but feel that it was about time he found a woman. After all, isn't the point of having money to enjoy it? Caleb glanced at his phone. Arthur Sterling had sent him a message. It said to head over to room 666 once he was finished. Caleb changed into a bathrobe. Led by a server, he made his way to room 666. When he stepped inside, he found 7 or 8 people already waiting. The room was quite large. It was a luxury suite. The outer area was a small conference room, while the inner section was a bedroom. As soon as he saw Caleb enter, Arthur immediately introduced him. "Come in. The man of the hour is here. Mr. Gray, let me introduce you. This is..." And everyone, "This is Mr. Gray. He is our distinguished guest looking to make investments tonight." "Hello, Mr. Gray." The group greeted Caleb one after another. Despite Caleb's young age, in their eyes, he was basically the god of wealth. Arthur stood by with a beaming smile, waiting. Investing was a technical skill. It wasn't as simple as throwing money at every opportunity. Doing that would lead to massive losses down the line. Although Caleb didn't know much about the technicalities, he could still gauge the future prospects of certain industries. For instance, sectors like healthcare and education were unlikely to ever collapse. First and foremost, it had to be understood that every investment carried a degree of risk. Normally, investors made decisions based on their own circumstances, current market conditions, and various other factors. After a comprehensive evaluation, only then would they invest. But for Caleb's investments, as long as it didn't look like a total sinkhole, he could go for it. Even if the profits and losses just broke even, it was still a massive win for him. As the group introduced their ventures one by one, Caleb gradually gained a better understanding of the landscape. For example, the healthcare industry had always been a market favorite. Consumer goods were one of the more stable sectors. Then there were the trending topics of recent years, like new energy and the current era of internet media. The boom in e-commerce, live streaming, and influencer sales over the last few years was practically insane. It seemed like anyone and everyone was starting a live stream to sell products. Therefore, investing in that area was actually quite promising. Then there were the essential industries. Who doesn't need the basics like food, clothing, housing, and transportation? There was also finance and real estate. When the real estate market was booming, countless entrepreneurs made their fortunes through it. And when the economy was sluggish, the financial industry often became even more robust. Whether people had money or not, they all wanted to preserve and grow the value of what they had. The industry of making money with money offered even more opportunities. Then there was the senior care industry. After all, the aging population was becoming a serious issue. The elderly care sector was about to see a massive demographic dividend, becoming one of the golden tracks for investment. Nursing homes, health supplements, wheelchairs, canes, senior entertainment, and elderly services all had great potential. Finally, there was the cultural tourism sector. From Aspen going viral to the creative marketing of tourism boards everywhere, the travel industry was developing at high speed.